Welcome to the Long-Term Care Chronicles podcast. Thank you for listening to the Long-Term Care Chronicles. In today's episode, we are going to be speaking with Dean Henerson, who is the Director of Client Experience, Education and Innovation at the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County. As well, we have Monique Thibault, who is the Dementia Care Coach, who has been working at the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County as well. And this will be a two-part series in regards to dementia care. I just wanted to formally thank you both, Dean and Monique, for coming on to the Long-Term Care Chronicles and speaking on this particular topic of dementia. And my first question will be for the folks that aren't familiar, what is dementia? What is that actually, that designation?
Monique, okay. I can go first if you want. It's a great question, and it's dementia is really still misunderstood by a lot of people. We like to really say that dementia is an umbrella term that describes a set of symptoms that can include loss of memory, difficulties in thinking, challenges with language, problem solving. Many different symptoms are under this umbrella term. And these symptoms all add up to reduce a person's independence or their ability to do the regular activities that we all do every day. Dementia is kind of like a chronic disease, and it takes years to develop. And right now, unfortunately, there is no cure for it. That's the general way on how we describe dementia.
Okay. And then for the different types of dementia and the different stages, would you be able to explain that as well?
Yeah. So as Dean mentioned, dementia is an umbrella term. So there's over 85 different types of dementia. And that's why it's very complex. Alzheimer's disease would be one of the many types of dementia. And Alzheimer's disease has a slow progression. It's insidious. We're talking a number of years, so people don't really know in the beginning if it's just short-term memory problems. So keep in mind that there's always two major elements when we're talking about dementia. So it has to have a set of symptoms like memory, reasoning, language barriers, changes in personality and mood swings. In general, we talk sometimes about 3 stages. So there's the early stages of dementia, which, in those stages, people tend to present short-term memory, disorientation with time, not knowing which day it is, not having the ability to remember that they forgot about a doctor's appointment, forgetting about simple things that daily life, preparing a meal, looking after their finances. But in the early stages, someone who has dementia can live well with a structured environment, exercise, and keeping track of their nutrition and everything. In the middle stage of the disease, that's where people need much more cueing, assistance. Language is much more limited. They need to have a more structured environment. So people can, at times, they cannot be left alone at home. They may wander out because they're lost in their environment and it's difficult to find their way. And that's where caregivers need to find a way to reach out in the community to start building a network of support like respite, day programs. And we'll talk about that later in terms of services that's provided. And in the late stages of the disease, the progression is significant to the point where language is very limited. People may not remember or recall their loved ones. They may not be able to recognize family members. They need 24/7 care in the late stages. That's in a nutshell what dementia is about. And there are many types: vascular type dementia, Lewy body dementia, frontotemporal dementia. That's why these diseases are complex and they require many testing to get to a type of diagnosis.
And an important thing to add there is that everyone's experience with the different types of dementia, so vascular dementia, Lewy body, Alzheimer's disease, is different. Yes, there are some general similarities with each type of disease. Everyone will have a little bit, like everyone will have their own unique experiences and symptoms with their own experiences and symptoms.
Absolutely. Because I mean, that's the challenge as well. Once you explained in terms of the later stages, most times they would be going into long-term care for being able to provide the necessary care, because it gets too much for the caregiver. Now, when it becomes in terms of the therapies that are involved, whether it's pharmacological or non-pharmacological, whether that's music therapy or having a humanistic-based approach, what, I guess, would be the key triggers that would be necessary to choose either one?
That's a great question, Wendy. And when I was thinking about this question in advance, I was thinking around. There's a recent report that just came out from the Lancet, Dementia Prevention, Intervention, and Care, and what it talked a lot about was kind of ways to be brain healthy. And we like to say that it's never too early or too late to start to be brain healthy. So that's, maintaining your social engagement. Like, we are human beings. We're meant to be social. We're meant to engage and to communicate, whether that's in person or over Zoom on a podcast. We're meant to be active, as Monique said. We're, having, great sleeping habits, eating healthy, all of these ways to be brain healthy. In a sense, it is a type of therapy. We want to be as healthy as possible. And in terms of, I like the word you used, holistic. And I think what came to my mind when you said that is being person-centered. And it's really about understanding the individual that is living with dementia and what are their, who they are as a person, so that you can stay connected with them. Because what we learn with dementia is that when there are challenges or when there is a behavior, there's a reason behind every behavior, just like there's a reason behind when I get a little upset in my day or whatnot. There's a reason behind that. So it's about understanding the person so that you can understand the emotion behind what they're trying to communicate.
And I would also like to say that with dementia, what happens, there's an impact not only on the person's ability to manage and function on a daily basis, but also an impact on the caregiver. And this tends to isolate people a lot because they're concerned about what people will say. They're concerned about how their family member will react because of their cognitive abilities as are impaired. Their communication skills are not as clear as they used to be. So for us at the Dementia Society, it's so important to focus on their strengths and abilities. And through those social programs, that's our way to keep people active, physically and socially involved, They create also themselves a support system together because they're connecting. And that's one of the goals that we reinforce people at the Dementia Society. And in doing that, it decreases the anxiety level, depression, all of those emotional complex aspect are dealt in a different way through our social programs.
Exactly. So you're saying that the caregivers would have the support available to them for them to, whether that's through a day program, whether that's through a group that they talk to be able to share amongst everybody as to what they're going through, and so that they don't feel like I'm the only one that's experiencing this and I'm the only one that's going through something like this, right?
Absolutely. Like validating how people feel and knowing that they're not alone in this journey helps them to move forward because they're all resilient. You know, they have to change their way of doing, of thinking, of planning without even realizing that they need to look after themselves. So if they don't take care of themselves, how can I take care of my family member, either in the community or in long-term care? And with this pandemic, it makes it even more difficult to find creative ways to meet those needs and challenges. And I find now with the technology that we are using, it gives another perspective on things and a new way of connecting with family members.
Now, you just mentioned in terms of with the pandemic and with residents in long-term care. Now, they've experienced additional isolation with this. So they may not have, or their facility may not have the ability to connect through through the internet, through them even picking up the phone and to be able to call, whether that's staffing not available or they're dealing with an outbreak within the facility. So right now, is there anything that would facilitate to help to bring out some sort of support, whether that's for the caregiver, whether that's for the resident that's in the facility during this pandemic, because it is going to be with us for a significant amount of time going forward. And whether or not there is something in place. I know that you're in the Ottawa Renfrew area, and whether or not there is, that you guys have something in place to support residents in long-term care.
I can start by speaking to the support available for caregivers directly right now. And correct, right now, the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County, we're the local resource for support in Ottawa and Renfrew County. And so right now for caregivers in our region, we have a team of what we call Dementia Care Coaches.
Okay.
Monique is a extraordinary, amazing dementia care coach. So she's available to provide one-on-one support for caregivers, whether that's having a conversation like we're having right now, whether that's questions about what to expect, or, just going through the different emotions that we're all experiencing right now. So, what I'm trying to say is support available right now is that one-on-one support we can provide through our team of dementia care coaches. But jumping back to, the conversation when we were having that, knowing that you're not alone. So we do have support groups pretty much every day. I think there's over 24 or 25 support groups each and every month. Wow. And right now with COVID, they have all gone to virtual, so over Zoom or over the telephone. But we really saw a need right at the beginning of COVID that caregivers supporting someone in long-term care are in a particular unique challenge. And so we have started a support group specifically for caregivers who are supporting someone in long-term care. And, we have a little bit of a registration process, but that has been the most in-demand support group that we have had since March of this pandemic starting. The other one that is quickly growing in popularity behind that is we have a grief support group, and that is exciting and sad at the same time. And it's grief, not only just it can be anticipatory grief of like not being able to see your family member and grieving that way. Or we've had a number of our clients' family members pass away in long-term care during this time. So there's a lot of grieving going on. And while I'm speaking, Wendy, I know that this podcast is national. So while I'm speaking about specific resources in Ottawa and Renfrew County, I know that there is similar, if not the same resources in other regions through the Alzheimer's Society or other community support networks. But those are the specific resources available right now for caregivers. We're open late, and you could call us at any time to have questions or just wanted to talk to someone. We also know that the Ontario Caregiver Association has opened up a 24-hour hotline, whether that's over the phone or on chat, which I think is a great resource. Monique, I wanted to open it up to you to see if you had anything else to add before we jump to the resources specifically for someone living in long-term care.
Absolutely. And Wendy, I think one of the aspects sometimes, not all caregivers are technically savvy and do not have computers and are having to struggle to visit their family members in long-term care. So maybe I can share some ideas, and I'm sure many people are already using and doing those visitation in a different way. So one of the ways would be, like using the phone, arranging with a staff member a time that is suitable to connect with their family member. Sometimes it's just this familiar voice over the phone that is reassuring to know that my husband is there, even though I cannot see him in person. At least I can hear this reassuring voice. Maybe a conversation about something that they've done in the past, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes. That connection is so important. Maybe writing a letter about the trips that they have done over the years, with pictures that can bring some memories, positive memories about those times that are so precious to them. Or even have a funny picture of, maybe a painting someone did and it looks pretty crazy, but I think these moments are so special and important to reassure not only the person in long-term care, but the caregiver who's not able to make that physical connection, to be there, to have this presence, even if it's to help with the meal time, dressing, you name it. There's a wide range of things that are difficult to manage. And this sense of guilt will not go away because it's part of, that's how we're made. But if we find a reason, a way to compensate, it may help the caregiver to find ways to alleviate those feelings that are so complex. Window visiting would be also another one where, someone can bring a lawn chair and it's coffee or tea time, and let's have just a chat or with pictures, bring your dog, just to have this focus. The other day I had this wife saying to me, well, Monique, my husband is on the second floor and I wanted to say hello and everything. So she stood outside and he looked at her and he said, oh my gosh, I don't even recognize this person. But the way she waved, for some reason, it connected with him and it reminded him that it was someone who was familiar. He could not say that it was his wife, but someone that he loved over, a number of years. So there are many ways other than the technology to reassure people. That's one of the role we also do, is to help caregivers to find tips and ways to manage during this COVID situation, because people are overwhelmed, and it's just a simple change can make, a valuable time moment very special in their lives.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned about the caregiver guilt, because I'm sure that's a big one for a lot of caregivers, guilty for the fact that they've had to put their loved one in a long-term care facility. Now that this pandemic is upon us, that they've been isolated from them and not being there either to advocate or just to be there to provide any type of support. So it's good to know that these support groups are there to be able to assist the caregivers. So that wraps up our first part with our discussion with Dean and Monique from the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County. And next time, we'll go to the second part of that conversation on dementia care.